Morning folks, how you doing? We're out and about. I've got company today, my brother's with me, Ian, and you recognise Mo. My brother works 365 days a year, so we've encouraged him to come out and explore his locality. He lives just over your shoulder there. So we're heading in that direction. We're out for a bit of a walk and a wee bit of exploration. A wee mini adventure for you. We're going to take you with us, so let's go. Hey, it's getting warm folks. Let me take a layer off, I think, have a drink of water. It's quite challenging terrain this, up and down and round about, trying to avoid the water. That's the ridge that goes up onto Hebrides. We're going to cross just at the bottom of the ridge and then we're going to head down and start contouring round after that.
Go back, Chef. Oh, you're a good boy. You're a good boy. Yes.
When I first glanced at the map, I thought about crossing a wee bit higher up, which seemed like a nice route. But looking at it now, it looks a wee bit harder, so I think I'll go left.
Good choice. Good shot.
I'll just have a wee bit of your hot water or what?
Yeah, just drink out of the pink cup. Cool.
folks, what a beautiful spot and what an amazing day for December. So this old shieling here will be a perfect spot for setting up a wee camp. It's still quite early in the day, but I want to do a little bit more filming, show you some of the views of the wee weather. So I think we're going to scout about here, see if we can find a wee bit of dry ground and in the midst of all the boggy stuff. See if we can get a camp set up, and we've got running water. Luxury. You've done it again, folks. You've found a glorious, flat, dry spot for me to camp. You'll know what I mean if you watched the last video where I was out with a bike, Alone in the Hills it's called. If you haven't checked that one out, check it out, folks. It's a bit of an epic, it's 2 hours long, but if you don't have the time or the inclination to view all of it, you can maybe jump through it. There's some nice views. Anyhow, talking about nice views, we've got an amazing view here. We've got a wee burn there. Mo and I are going to set up the tent here, and if you're wondering what's happened to my brother, I think he's out of shot. Socially distanced camping. He's setting up closer to the shieling there. But we'll get together later on, maybe do a little bit of exploration of the coastline. So let me crack on and get this tent set up. I'm wondering if I can think up a story for you. It seems to be the recent development in the channel when we're putting the tent up. To alleviate your boredom, I'll have to tell you a tale. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you on that one, folks. But for now, we need to crack on, because although the sun is quite high, it is getting quite late now. It's closer to 2 o'clock than 1 o'clock, so we've got about 2 hours of daylight left. Looking across the Minch there, folks, to Skye, I can see the bothy that's called the Lookout away at the north end, and then there's a wee hill beyond it called Ben Bolovig. Tiny wee hill. You see Loch Pooltail there. If you're wondering where Mo is, she's very kindly operating the camera for me today. Thanks, Mo. I'm sure the folks appreciate that. So what about a wee story? When I'm setting this tent up, I mentioned looking across the Loch Pooltail there. As you know from watching my videos, you'll realise that I'm not a brilliant fisherman. But I do enjoy a bit of luck now and again, and I think it is actually luck rather than skill. Anyway, Mo and I were camping last year after we'd come back from Harris. Actually, we were in the Outer Isles, but we were further north. We were on Lewis and Harris, mostly Harris. We went across the Skye, and we had a few nights of glorious camping at Loch Pooltail there with no midges and unusually no midges and no wind. So I had the kayak with me, so I decided to put the kayak in the water, and I had a tiny wee rod, and it's a really popular spot for fishermen, and they're talking to a lot of the guys have been fishing there for days, and they're saying there's not much happening, few mackerel and stuff like that. So I went out and I paddled out into the deeper water. As I say, it was flat calm and high tide as well, and sort of, I suppose, mid to late evening, gave a single cast and I pulled out a pollock that size, one cast. I had my walkie-talkie with me, and I said to Mo on the walkie-talkie, right, job done, time to get in, cook up this fish. But what I didn't realise is Mo had walked down to the pier and she was standing beside all these fishermen. I think the Scots word was scunnered. I think they were maybe impressed and unimpressed with me all at the same time. But to add insult to injury, as I was paddling in, there was a boat coming out of the wee harbour, so I had to wait for a few minutes to give the guy right of passage and then make my way in. So while I was waiting, I tried another cast and I got another fish. I got a collie, actually quite a good sized collie, but I decided to throw it back. How to make friends and influence people. My stories are so bad that Mo has chose to entertain herself. A bit of shadow dancing going on there. I'm not sure if this is going to make the final cut. Lie down. Yeah, lie on this. Okay, we have shelter. Time to get the sleep system in. For a glorious afternoon. What's this washing doing hanging up here?
Stop you moaning.
You know folks, these mats, they're quite expensive, but the thickness of that and the insulation qualities of it are great. So we're on fairly lightweight sleeping bags, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be warm tonight because having this underneath the sleeping bag just makes so much difference. The other thing I do in not just winter camping, throughout the year, I sometimes carry a tarp, or I don't have a footprint for my tents. These footprints are pretty expensive, and a cheap tarp does the same job. And you can use it in the sort of vestibule area of the tent as well if it's muddy or mucky camping, and it just stops any dirt getting dragged into the tent. But the other thing you can do, we've got two perfectly good rucksacks with us, and I can use the rucksacks underneath the tent. I can just tuck them in here and it'll just take out any undulations, and if you prefer sleeping with your head just a little bit higher, you can use the rucksack. Keeps your head and your shoulders, the top of your back off the ground, gives you another layer of insulation, but also is a great levelling device for trimming your camp, just to make sure that you get the maximum luxury. When I was out camping with the bike, I didn't mention it, but I did exactly the same thing with my panniers. I'm checking out these sleeping bags because they're the same sleeping bags, these pure and dry sleeping bags, but they're different lengths. I've got an extra long one, so this is my one here. That was a wee bit uncharitable. I'll share with you what Mo just said to me after I did that wee piece to camera, saying that we've got the same sleeping bags but they're different lengths. I was looking at the label to see which is the long one. She said, "You don't need to do that, you can tell by the smell."
Absolutely 100% true.
What can I say, folks? It's my electrical gear for filming, folks. It's the single most heavy thing in my rucksack. I've got a complex, folks. I'm having a wash. It's been hinted at that I'm smelly.
I don't think that was a hint.
Oh no, that water is cold. A bit dark, folks. I'm searching the shoreline for driftwood, see if it's worth getting a wee fire going tonight, but it's slim pickings, I'm afraid, and there is a bit of flotsam about, but it's quite wet, so I'll go around a wee bit further. Everybody else is back at the tents. My brother came with me for a wee bit, and he's away with an armful, so it might just be enough. Let's keep looking for a wee while. I'll leave this here. Keep an eye on that for me. Well folks, that was a lovely walk along the coast I had, but I'm back at the tent with Mo. We're going to cook up some pasta. My brother's doing a bit of cooking up there, he's doing some vegetables, so we're going to join the two dishes together. So I'm going to cook the pasta up here and then we'll go up and join them. We managed, sorry I'll turn that down, so the stove roaring there. We managed to get a wee bit of driftwood, not very much, but enough for a wee fire, so we'll cook up here behind my wee kitchen here. That's if you imagine this pile of stones, it's sort of like a half cairn, like a cairn that you might find, a wee tiny mini cairn that you'd find on the top of a hill, but it's hollow inside and there's a flat stone here on the bottom of it, so just keeps the stove out of the wind, and it's just perfectly positioned for putting my pot on top and getting this pasta on the go. So I'll get back to you in a wee while folks. It's actually pretty cold tonight folks. I think it's going to be below freezing. So a wee trick if you're boiling water for your pasta, rather than bring it to the boil in the pot, just boil it up a wee bit first and then pour it in. Don't know what the Italians would make of that. This is not a cookery channel. And in fact I'm going to hand over to Mo in a wee while. I think Mo's going to finish us off for me. I've got a few other things to do. This is a joint effort tonight folks, if you can see me through the steam. Of course the camera is running, I'm doing the stirring and things, and Mo's slipped to the back of the tent there. And when I'm out and about setting up camera angles and switching the camera on and off, Mo's doing the stirring, so we're quite hungry. We want to crack on and get this pasta softened up. I'm filming solo. I have to take the pasta off to change the camera angles. Either that or I end up with a bowl of burnt pasta for my efforts. It's a lot easier when there's a couple of people. So thanks Mo.
Welcome.
Morning folks, how you doing? Oh, here's the dog to see me. It was cold in the night, it was a hard frost in the night, but the cloud has rolled in. Going to put a bit of light on for you. Still quite dark. Going to have breakfast in bed this morning. I think Mo's still asleep there. So I've got some coffee on the go here. Got the stove roaring away again. We'll get some porridge made, a wee bit of honey, some fruit. And then when the light rolls in properly, we'll think about making a move. Chip. Good morning, Chip. How are you? Don't get too close to this stove now, Chip. Sorry about the roaring stove there, folks. In case you couldn't hear any of that, I just said good morning. I said it was a super frosty night, but the cloud has rolled in now and it's looking a bit damp actually. There might be some rain coming. Anyhow, we're going to have breakfast in bed. Mo's still lying there. Are you awake? Still lying there asleep by the sounds of it. By the lack of sound. We've got some coffee on the go, some water boiled for porridge. No fancy porridge this morning, just porridge pots. We've got a wee bit of honey to add to it, and we've got some fruit, so should be quite nice. I've been asked a few times, folks, what's the longest time I've ever spent living in a tent? Well, the answer to that is, let me see, it must be a little over 6 months on one of my bigger trips. Every single night in a tent for just over half a year. And interestingly, I found it quite difficult to sleep in a bed when I got back to civilization. It didn't take that long to adjust. don't do many shout outs on my channel because I'm not very sure if viewers and subscribers are welcoming of such attention, but I'm going to do a wee shout out this morning, folks. I've got a subscriber, I'm not going to give any names, but I know that COVID has been hard for him and lost his job, so thinking about you, wish you well, hope something comes up soon and hope you're keeping busy. It's tough times just now, folks, I'm well aware of that. On another expedition where I lived in a tent for a very extended period, I had a tent made by a very well-known tent maker. I'm not going to say what the brand is, but they're quite high-end, certainly amongst the most expensive that you can buy. And this tent was given to me as a sponsorship deal for the expedition that I was on. And I used that tent probably for the best part of a year, to be honest, although I didn't stay in it every single night during that period. And I pretty much moved camp every couple of days, maybe every 3 days. So I'll let you do the math on that, how many times I put that tent up and how many times I took it down. At the end of that extended expedition, I still couldn't put that tent up properly. So when I got back home, I was asked, what do you think of the tent then? Not a lot. And actually what I think it was, I think there was a manufacturing defect in it. I think it was a perfectly good tent, but I just think I got one that was, what do they call these things, a Friday afternoon one or something like that. And the problem I had with that tent, every time I put it up, it had a fold in it. And it didn't matter how I put it up or how I tensioned it, I would get the fold out on one side and I think, finally cracked it, and then I'd go around to the other side of the tent and it would be on the opposite side. Which in itself wasn't a big problem. You know, I do like my tent to look quite good when it's up, it's my home. But the problem was it flapped in the night. And I was in the Himalayas, so it was pretty windy. Tent tails, folks, tent tails. Anyhow, I better crack on a bit here. My brother's breaking camp as well. He'll be sitting up there, wondering what I'm up to.
Chef is looking at both sides.
We've got the dog monitoring us from both sides.
Chef! Come here!
If you're wondering about Mo hiding behind the camera there, she's actually operating it for me, so there we go.
Alright. Oh, Chef.
Well folks, I like to leave the place as I found it. You'll remember we had a wee bonfire last night, a driftwood fire. So just up at the ruined shieling there, so we've got a wee bit of tidying up to do there before we set off, and then we're back into the hills again. We're on a circular route, we're going to wind our way back, and I'll take you with us so you can see a wee bit more of the countryside. Well folks, this old shieling might be a ruin, but we still want to leave it the way we found it. So we had a fire just in the lee of the broken down building here, but we're going to tidy it up before we go. The driftwood that we collected, we burned pretty much all of it except this one piece, which was quite a hefty piece, and this part was a bit wet, but it's actually bone dry now. So I'm just going to pop it up against the building there, cover it over with a flat stone, and the next camper that happens along here might be able to use it. And then we'll fill in this fire pit. Basically we're surrounded by piles of rubble, so the easiest way to do it is just to make a pile of rubble over the top of the ashes, and they'll gradually rot away. If a wee rowan germinates in there, it's going to get potash rich soil, so we might have a tree here in a few years' time, who knows. Something to come back for. There we go folks, leave no trace. Well, the day's wearing on, we've got a long way to go, so let's get these rucksacks shouldered, and we've got to go inland for a wee while. We contemplated going round the coast, but there's so many burns piling down off Hecla, off these hills, that we would be up and down the coastline trying to find a way to get past them, because they cut deep and narrow ravines that are difficult to get across, so you've basically got to go around them. So I think we're going to go inland, we'll find a route, takes us back through the lock-ins, back to Loch Skipper actually is where we started off, so that's the objective today. We should get there this afternoon at some point before dark. So let's go. Well folks, isn't that just glorious? What a landscape. If you're wondering where the others are, they're just over your shoulder there. We hiked up here together, but but I wanted to show you a little bit of the hike, so I set the tripod up and I scooted back down again. I'm giving away my filming tricks. I wouldn't call them techniques. Well folks, we're back at the car, we made it. That was a grand couple of days walk. Hope you enjoyed that wee mini adventure beneath Hecla, the hills of South Uist. So thanks for tuning in folks, very much appreciated, and I look forward to getting back to you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye.